President Biden is expected to do some real damage control tomorrow when he gives a major speech on inflation. Those remarks are happening just one day before Americans find out how much more they are paying for everyday items. Let's bring in James Freeman, Wall Street Journal assistant editor and a Fox News contributor. James, good to see you. Thanks for coming in on this one.
You too.
Yeah. So President Biden expected to make a major speech on inflation tomorrow before the CPI, that's the Consumer Price Index numbers for April, are released. Now, these numbers tell us what people are paying for everyday goods and services. And so what are we expecting these numbers to look like, and what does it mean?
Well, the economics community, I guess you would say, is expecting a slightly better number than we got last month, 8.5%, but the expectation's now running at 8.1, which is still terrible, still historically bad. And so despite what the president says, I think it's going to be another ugly number this week.
Yeah, I guess it's at least going in the right direction, right? But the big question people are asking is, how long is this inflation going to last? And now you have two former Federal Reserve employees actually saying in order to end inflation, the Fed needs to raise interest rates at a faster rate than expected, but they worry that that could result in recession. What do you think?
Yeah, I think now they tell us is what some of your viewers are probably going to be thinking. The Fed let this problem be created for far too long. The Fed created a lot of money to fight the pandemic and then continued to create it after the economy started to rebound in mid-2020. You've seen on the fiscal side, the president and Congress continuing to spend last year another big COVID-related spending plan. So we've had this problem where the government has created lots of money and lots of demand, but has not done enough to encourage the creation of goods and services to soak up all of those dollars that are now in the economy. So there is a concern that the inevitable result here, with the Fed doing what they have to do to fight inflation, will be a blow to the economy. I don't think we're doomed to have a recession, but the Fed has made its job much tougher than it had to be by running a loose policy for too long, creating too much money.
Yeah, you know, and all of this showing up in the stock market today, we've seen sharp declines this morning. But let's turn quickly to student debt. The notion of forgiving debt has a lot of people from both sides of the aisle riled up. I want to listen to a sample of, again, people from both sides of the aisle. Take a listen.
I think it's a crazy idea. It's wasting too much money.
I don't think it can just be a blanket. We're going to wipe out all of the student loan. I think there's all different kind of levels of that we've got to really dig deep on.
It's utterly unfair to the thousands of people who've worked their tails off to pay back their student loan just to have Uncle Sugar in the form of Joe Biden just forgive it.
All right, so James, why do you think this is so unpopular across the board?
Well, it's really a terrible idea, morally, legally, financially, economically. You saw there in the clips people explaining the moral problem, where essentially it's a wealth transfer from the poor to the rich in many cases, from people who didn't go to college to people who did go to college and often graduate school. Oftentimes what we're doing with this kind of policy is subsidizing young lawyers who will go on to make lots of money over their careers. So it's also inflationary. It's juicing demand and not encouraging the production of more goods and services. So there's a lot to argue against it. But I think one of the ways it's kind of also terrible that maybe isn't getting as much of a spotlight is this doesn't change the problem at universities. If the problem is that people paid a ton of money for degrees that aren't worth enough for them to earn back the money to service the debt, it means that product has a problem. And in any other market, it would mean the price of that product would have to come down. We're not seeing that here. This is saying to colleges and universities, keep charging tons of money and taxpayers will foot the bill.
Yeah, and they are charging tons of money, aren't they? Especially some of those elite liberal colleges in the Northeast, charging a ton of money, but still a lot of people do pay their loans back. James Freeman, thank you so much for your thoughts on this today. Really appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.